Good afternoon. Welcome to July 14th Council meeting. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in Council chambers and electronically in accordance with Section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and Section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. The meeting will also be broadcast on Rogers TV. An agenda of this meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. Councilors attending virtually will be raising their hands in view of their webcam when moving a motion, requesting to speak, and when a vote is being taken. If a member of council is disconnected or having technical difficulties, we will take a recess in order to attempt to rectify the issue. If technical difficulties exist that prevent the meeting from continuing, the meeting will be adjourned and reconvened at a later time. If a councillor attending virtually needs to leave the meeting at any time, they are requested to inform the clerk. And Councillor Talbot will be reading the resolutions today. We have no closed session and the disclosure of conflict of interest. Hearing none. Matters arising from the minutes. Hearing none. The minutes. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Patel that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on June 16th, 2022 be adopted.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. The additions to the agenda, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Patel that the following items be added to the agenda. Presentations. 7A, Acting Mayor Connie Lauder on behalf of City Council will make a presentation to the Student Civic Award of Excellent recipients for 2022, and delegations 8E, Peter Eppler, Woodstock Heritage Advisory Committee Chair, 130 Finkel Street report.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Now I'll step down and I'm going to do the presentations for our students. Today, we have three students receiving our awards of excellence. And we are fortunate to have these three very deserving young people as recipients of Woodstock City Council's 2022 Civic Award of Excellence. All three are hardworking, determined, and dedicated individuals who have demonstrated leadership, compassion, enthusiasm, perseverance, commitment, and tremendous personal growth. They have also managed to maintain a high academic average throughout their high school career. The first young gentleman is Curtis Ball. Curtis, would you like to come up, please? Curtis is a College Ave High School graduate. Took on the role of being a peer leader, provided a positive role model to the younger students. Curtis has worked extremely hard at both his academic and athletic pursuits and has maintained an overall average high enough to maintain a place on the honor roll throughout his entire high school career. Curtis gravitates towards leadership roles and has been selected to be captain on several sports teams. He has given back to the community and volunteered with minor hockey and minor football by helping with camps, practices, and game days. He assisted with OPP initiatives for a local fishing derby and a bike rodeo. Sports have been an important part of Curtis's life. He has played football since grade 9 and received the Pay It Forward Award in honor of John Poole. Curtis played with football with the Woodstock Wolverines for 4 years and recently accepted a position on the football team at the University of Guelph. Curtis has played competitive hardball with Woodstock Wranglers and joined the Norwich Otters in 2018, where the team won the U14 Eastern Canadian Championship in Fredericton, New Brunswick. He has also played hockey since the age of 4, and through his experience received multiple tournament players of the game awards. Curtis has volunteered at Engamo Homes, a transitional housing program for abused women and their children. During this experience, Curtis assisted with children's programs and helped with summer activities and trips. Curtis will be attending the University of Guelph this fall in the Honors Psychology program. And with that, if you would like to say a few words, Curtis.
I'd just like to say thank you to the city of Woodstock for giving me this bursary scholarship. I know I've worked hard to get where I am, and I've had lots of support throughout the community and through school and from my parents and friends. And it's just an honor to receive this.
Check. Okay, thank you. Our next young gentleman is Justin Martins, a St. Mary's High School graduate, has had the opportunity to develop and use his leadership skills attending multiple global leadership conferences, as well as the Ontario Leadership Conference. He used these skills to prepare and present an anti-vaping presentation to grade 10 and attending area elementary schools to speak out against the use of vapes. In grade 12, Justin was one of 2 students from St. Mary's nominated for the London District Catholic School Board Student Senate. This past March, he was the recipient of the Ted Early, is that yearly? Early Award that recognizes the top graduating senior male basketball player on the PVDSB and the LDA conferences, and was nominated for Al Coulter Mr. Volleyball Award, presented to a graduating volleyball player who made significant contributions to volleyball programming in areas of respect, sportsmanship, team leadership, athleticism, and volleyball abilities. Justin has earned academic and athletic excellence awards at St. Mary's that include being on the honor roll and having the highest mark in grades 9 and 10 mathematics, as well as physical education. Besides playing on the U18 Oxford Attack boys basketball team, Justin volunteered as an assistant coach for the U13 Oxford Attack boys basketball team. He has helped to plan and run practices. Justin has been very involved in the Woodstock and Oxford community and has gone over his required 40 community hours by scorekeeping and coaching basketball. Over the last year, he accumulated 50 community hours for scorekeeping and 200 for being coach of the U13 Oxford Attack team. He exceeded the number of necessary hours by 250. Justin is also chosen as the Oxford Attack Basketball Club's graduating player of the year for 2022. Justin will be attending either University of Waterloo or Queen's University this fall in the Honors Science of Engineering program. Justin, would you like to say some words?
Thank you. I would just like to say thank you for thinking of me for this award. And I couldn't have done it without all the programs that are run in the city of Woodstock, specifically in sports for me, but in all the other areas. They're great for the youth, and they help, and it helps when you give back to those programs. So thank you.
Congratulations. Our third person is Prancy Patel. Is Prancy here? Yes. Prancy Patel A Huron Park graduate, has spent much of her free time participating in extracurricular activities such as organizing cultural events, student council, and helping younger students with school during online learning. She is extremely articulate in expressing difficult concepts and understanding complex biological processes. Her leadership skills and passion for the nuance with STEM set her apart as a student and an individual. Prancy is capable student, top achiever, and is driven by a desire to do good for in the community. She has volunteered for school fundraising drives that directly benefit her peers as well as the community of Woodstock. Her caring nature and personality allow her to work well with others in team settings, as she always respects others' opinions even when they differ from her own. Prancy has demonstrated an openness to an empathy for the views, feelings, and perspectives, along with shrewd powers of scientific observation and experimentation. Her commitment to having an open, growth-centered mindset is an invaluable asset and will serve Prancy as she continues throughout her education and into her professional life. Prancy has interests in painting and offered her photography skills for the school yearbook. She has been involved in badminton and chess clubs and enjoys basketball and swimming. Prancy will be attending the University of Western Ontario this fall in the medical science program. Prancy, would you like to say a few words?
I'd like to thank everyone in the city of Woodstock for this honor. It's truly great. I'm very grateful for it. Of course, I'd like to thank my teachers, my parents, and the community. Without their help, I wouldn't be here. So thank you, everyone.
So from all of that, you can see we've had three wonderful students. Normally, we would only give to one student, but we could not choose. So these three students are very well deserving. Our next delegation is Peter Eppler, and I think he's. Oh, I'm sorry, missed one. Our next one is presentation is, no, it's not Peter. It's Peter. Oh, sorry. Our next delegation is, our first one is David Hilderly, and I'll remind our delegations, there's a 5-minute period to addressing council. Go ahead.
Acting Mayor Lauder, City Council, and City staff. Thanks for the opportunity to bring an update on Southgate Center's expansion fundraising efforts this afternoon. Today marks a very special day in Southgate Center's history. We are very pleased to announce that as of today, we have fulfilled our $1 million commitment to the city for the most positive and long-serving facility for our 50+ adults programming and for community-based events and celebrations. I want to say a special and grateful thanks to the Dr. Leonard Reeves Foundation, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada, the Dispensary PharmaSave, Maglan Site Furniture, Wellington Street Denture, Wilma Botflower, Dr. Ross and Fran McElroy, Howe Dental Labs, Dennis and Joan Wilmershausen, and Century 21 Heritage House Limited for their significant contributions to our cause, along with the numerous other donations. I want to say congratulations to our hardworking committee of Wilma Locktower, Patrice Hilderly, Sarah Sheehan, Chris Cunningham, and our entire Prospects Committee for getting us this far in the fundraising. Now we move on to the last 500,000 for equipment and furniture to maintain Southgate Center's business model. I want to say a special thanks to David Curry and Brian Connors for their advice and guidance throughout this process. Harold DeHaan for creating a solution for entry and exit at our new parking lot. And Craig Wallace for preparing and delivering requests for proposals for the construction drawings. When we had our annual community barbecue in celebration of Seniors Month on June 22nd, over 200 members applauded and cheered when we announced the success thus far. Thank you again, City Council and staff, for your support of our amazing Southgate Center. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions or comments through to Mr. Hilderly? Thank you, David. Our next delegation is Patricia Mary Bernadette Witu. Would you like to come forward, please? Just remind everyone that 5 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't hear me? Well, that's a good thing. My name is Patricia Mary Bernadette Witu, born and raised sort of in Woodstock. I don't know where to begin, and I just want to say this is my passionate about certain things in our downtown. I grew up at Main and Finkel, and my great aunt Bernadette was first elected female mayor of a Canadian city here. And then after she saved the building, which is now the Museum of National Historic Site. It used to be City Hall. City Hall. It's great to be here. During summer vacations, we lived at Main and Finkel. I'm from the CBS, the Crazy Bunch of Smiths, and so I would walk to visit my aunt Vern. Most days, she taught me how to be a curator of a museum, and here we are, 75, how many however many years later, and I just learned recently that the Studite brothers, fathers, came to Woodstock in 1953, and I don't know how they found this place. They found it, and I'm really glad they did. And they bought land, the Ukrainian church, the monastery, and my dad, Lieutenant Colonel David Douglas Witu, was Ukrainian. And he was the first Ukrainian that the CBS had ever met. And, he and my mom met here in 1944. They were married, then my dad went off to war and came back, and they lived their lives here. And I had the opportunity to acquire the Golden Dome from the top of the former Ukrainian church here. And it's right now it's sitting on our front lawn. And I want to donate it to the city of Woodstock in honor of and my family. Anyway, I only learned 2 years ago that the sunflower is the native flower of Ukraine. I never knew that. Anyway, tell me, are you going to ring a bell when 5 minutes are up, or I just don't. Sorry. How
I'll
many
let you
minutes
know.
left?
We're at-
So anyway, I want to donate the Golden Dome to Woodstock. I want people to honor my people. The museum people already measured it and photographed it and tried to get it into City Hall. There's only one location, double doors, that would accommodate, but I don't want it indoors. It needs to be outdoors. And so I have 4 suggestions for the location. My number 1 location would be at Main and Finkel. Number 2 would be the grassy area. Number 3 in Southside Park, looking up to where the church used to be, where the dome used to live. There was, oh yeah, Victoria Park. So those are my 4 suggestions. If you decide that you're going to accept my gift, and what else can I say? This is from the heart. This morning I said, well, I haven't prepared anything to say. She said, just speak from the heart, Trish. So this is my heart. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Councillor Accioni?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Trish, if I may. I'm curious, and you mentioned it'll fit through double doors. What size is it?
It's about a 5-foot diameter. It's octagonal.
Okay.
With almost a 5-foot diameter, and it's as tall. It's about 5.5 feet high.
Okay. so
And then
it's-
there's the rusty old it's like
Spire?
a flag standard, but it was for the original cross. So it's still there. So and I also happen to have, I don't know if you have the opportunity to check it out
No, I
live, but I have this tower that onto which it can be mounted. If you know, I'll donate that to the city as well. But as far as my background is interior design, I do drawings, but I haven't done a drawing for this. It's up to you guys, either yes or no in accepting it. So does that answer
Thank
your
you. Yes,
question?
it does.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Schadenberg?
Thanks a lot from the chair through to Pat. I think I've known you all my life, Pat. At least you've known me all my life anyway. The dome, is it made out of brass? What's it made out of? And how sturdy is it currently as far as maybe being able to affix it to something, or does it require quite a bit of engineering to be able to keep it long term?
Delivered to our front lawn. To it weighs about 300 pounds. It's the plain wood, and but it's good. Then it was gold leaf. Structure is
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you. Hope you're dealing with that in a minute.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. There's some other delegations, so maybe if you sit them at the back. Pardon? Oh, and your sign, excuse me. your sign. Thank you. Our next delegation is Carl Harris. Carl, would you like to come forward, please?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name's Carl here. I'm a pastor care worker here in the United States Church. We're holding a prayer meeting in July, August, September, October, and November. Early in the morning, in the afternoon. So I know Dave can look at me at the time. Thank God for city for figuring out first. And Pluto is our dog.
Okay, are there any questions or comments for Carl? Thank you, Carl. Our next delegation is Tim Smith.
My name is Mary Jane Phillips, and I live in Southwest Oxford Township, and I'm co-founder of Cycles of Life for Supportive Transitional Living. Dear City Council, thank you for letting Cycles of Life present to you today. Cycles of Life runs a community outreach table in Woodstock 3 days a week in the parking lot of College Ave United Church, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 to 3. And we have seen our numbers increasing each day. We have on average as few as 75 to 80 people come to the community outreach table, and our new record recently was 140 people. Our calendar runs from November 1st to October 31st. November 1st to June the 30th, the stats said we had 5,397 people come to our table. We run a community outreach table 1 day a week, Tuesdays in Ingersoll. We've had a total of 1,054 visits to this table. Cycles of Life also has a table in Tillsonburg that runs 1 day a week, Thursdays. And so far, it's 1,584 number of people have come to Tillsonburg. So total from the 3 communities is 8,035 people in our county. CMHA, 2 Tillsonburg churches. We assisted a school program that's also through a different church, and a business person who have all come to us to help feed the homeless and are not included in these numbers. As you know, the cost of everything has gone up, including food, and this has Cycles of Life looking at a food drive to help fill our shelves. We have permission with Scott's No Frills here in Woodstock to do a food drive in their parking lot. So this brings us to council today to request an in-kind donation for the use of a city bus and driver so we can do a Fill the Bus food drive. We would like to do this Saturday, August the 13th, if possible. We would like to start the drive at 8:30 and finish at 2. If possible, could we have our items that were donated to us for this drive brought to our donated warehouse space in Tillsonburg, where volunteers will be waiting to unload the bus? If this time frame does not work, we are willing to work with the city to come to a conclusion. We've been looking for a donated space here in Woodstock, but to no avail. If we had a place here in Woodstock, then the items donated could go there instead of going to Tilson. So I'd like to thank you in advance for any assistance you can.
Life. Thanks for giving us time to make our request. I'd just like to know who you'd be helping if you say yes to this. Approximately, okay, we help the homeless and near homeless. Approximately 10% of our people, the people who come to us, are children under the age of 16. Obviously, the parents are coming to us for their help. Single and two-parent families, people with special needs, people with mental health issues, single men and women, people with physical health problems, people on OPSP, people on W, and seniors and new Canadians. We've had them all, and I'm sure I missed somebody in the numbers. So as you see, we support many, many different people, and we fill gaps for many. If you say yes to this request, you will help us continue helping them.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Tate?
Just through the chair to the presentation, just for everybody's benefit that wasn't at county council yesterday, I'd just like you to know that we had Sean Chapman came forward to do a presentation, operation sharing. Of course, with the economy, we were concerned that donations aren't coming in, and he did mention that you're filling in the gap, and it's greatly appreciated because there is a gap because people aren't donating as much. I did have a conversation with the city engineer. He doesn't see a problem with it. So when it comes to the vote, I'm sure it will be fine. But thank you for all your work.
Councillor Accioni?
Yes, through the chair to Tim and Mary Jane. I just want to say thank you. Drive by quite often and see how many people are there, and it's actually quite incredible. And just hats off to the job you're doing. So keep it up. I'm certainly supporting any way I can. So thank you.
Councillor Talbot?
Thank you. Through the delegation, just want to, you were talking about the homeless and different places or the other different people that are coming. Are you not, you're finding also that families, because they're just finding it hard to make ends meet. And unfortunately, food is one of the first things that they give up. So you're also filling that gap as well, are you not? But for those people, like people that are working,
Yeah.
that can't afford to eat and live. And but you not only just provide food, you provide clothing.
Small household items. This year we've only handed out one microwave.
So just to go on that thread then, so if the community wanted to provide more than just food, where would they go to look to find out the best way to donate?
In Woodstock and Ingersoll, they can come right to the table. They can donate, bring the donation straight to the people. We'll take it and load it and organize it, get it out to where it needs to go.
So is there a website for Cycles of Life that they can go on and get that information?
Currently just have a Facebook page. We are, and I know it may not be a large expense, but a website to get it set up. Be very careful. We look up to shoestring budget. So
Well, maybe someone listening today is a web designer, and maybe you'll get a donated website where people can go on and find out the information. But that's good to know, because if they don't have it, they can go to your Facebook page and find the information to make other donations. Because like I said after, or like Councillor Tate had said, Sean had told everybody that you guys are filling the gap. Like there is a huge need, but it's not just homeless that are utilizing these services.
Are there any other comments? And just to, your table is set up at College Ave. That's the only place, isn't it? So that, and it's there 3 days a week?
Yes, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay, thank you very much. And our next, our next delegation is Peter Eppler, and he's going to join us virtually.
Good afternoon. Hello, Deputy Mayor and councillors and city staff. My name is Peter Eppler, and I'm the chair of the Woodstock Heritage Advisory Committee. I am here today I have no presentation, but just making myself available if there are any questions related to the 130 Finkel Street Heritage report, or the report that we've provided you as part of something later in the meeting, if there are just any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this time through to Mr. Eppler? We'll be dealing with that later, Mr. Eppler, so just move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the resolutions. The first resolution is David Hilderly Southgate Capital Campaign Fundraising Update. Could I have a motion? Councillor Accioni, and second by Councillor Talbot. Any discussion?
Make the motion. Want me to read the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, read the motion. Yeah.
Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council received the Southgate Capital Campaign fundraising update as information.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And the next one is for Patricia Mary Bernadette Witu, donate former Ukrainian church dome. Could I have a motion on that? Councillor Tate and a seconder?
I'm gonna make motion first.
Okay. go
That Woodstock City Council refer the presentation regarding donation of the former Ukrainian church home to the municipality to the public art policy.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that? Councillor Accioni. Is there any discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Just a comment through the mayor and the rest of the council. I've driven past where Patricia Witthu's got the dome located currently, and I certainly would think it'd be a nice opportunity for the city to locate it somewhere, but maybe not necessarily on city property, but that's to be discussed as time evolves, because I think, for example, somewhere on that property that used to be where the Studite fathers were would be ideal. And the place that comes to mind would be the sort of the property where the Basil Ostis apartment building is. That was part of their property at one point in time too. But I certainly want to thank Patricia Witthu for coming forward to make this donation to the city of Woodstock, and that we should, quite frankly, concentrate on finding a location for it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'll call the vote on that. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's carried. And the next one is Carl Harris, prayer meeting and Museum Square. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Talbot.
I move that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation from Carl Harris regarding a prayer meeting at Museum Square as information.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Accioni. Is there any discussion? Thank you. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed. The next one is Tim Smith, Cycles of Life for Support of Transitional Living request for in-kind donations for food service. Could I have a motion on that? Councillor Patel.
Yeah, I move that Woodstock City Council approve an in-kind donation subject to availability for the use of a city transit bus and driver for a food drive to take place at Scott's No Frill Store on August 13th, 2022.
Thank you. Good seconder, Councillor Tate. Any discussion? Councillor Patel.
Obviously, I'm totally in support of this motion, but I just wonder if Mr. DeHaan could just give us a price or a figure, something that the public knows what we're donating.
Your worship, through the councillor, When you're just figuring driver time and bus time, you're probably looking at $400 to $500 for the day.
Just further to that, I believe the city engineer said he was gonna look into if we can travel to Tillsonburg if that's required. Comment on it?
Your worship, through the counselor, actually, yes, the clerk contacted our insurance company, and we are allowed to drive the bus there, and our coverage is there, still there. We're just not allowed to carry any passengers.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I'll call the vote on that. Are everyone all in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimous. And the next delegation was Peter Eppler, Woodstock Heritage Advisory Committee Chair, 130 Finkel Street report. There's no resolution required. This refers to a special committee and advisory task force report in item 15A. We'll move on now to the planning. And the first application is B2233-8, A22-07-8, application for consent of minor variance, Dennis and David Thompson, 452 Spencer Street. After the Monday planning meeting, the applicant has made changes to the proposal, and the planning department thinks it's appropriate at this time to defer this application. Could I have a motion on this, Councillor Accioni?
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council defer application for consent, a minor variance, B22-33-8, A22-07-8, submitted by Denise and David Thompson for 452 Spencer Street.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that? Councillor Talbot? Any discussion on that? Councillor Accioni?
Yes, I'd just like to the delegation that came on Monday evening, I appreciate it and always appreciate when they're willing to work with the city to kind of find a way to make it fit. So thank them very much.
Any other discussion? Thank you. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. The next application is CD 21-05-8, application for draft plan of condominium and exemption from draft plan approval, Creek Hill Homes, Inc., 278 Hunter Street. Ms. Ashler, would you like to proceed? First of all, I'll call the motion on that. Councillor Talbot?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council supports the application for draft approval of a proposed condominium submitted by Creek Hill Homes, Inc., file number CD 21058, prepared by NAG Geomatics, Inc., and dated June 20th, 2022 for lands described as Lot 5, Part Lot 4, Plan 10 in the city of Woodstock. And further, that Woodstock City Council supports the application for exemption from the draft plan of condominium approval process submitted by Creek Hill Homes, file number CD 21058, prepared by NA Geomatics, Inc., and dated June 20th, 2022 for lands described as Lot 5, Part Lot 4, Plan 10 in the city of Woodstock, as all matters relating to the development have been addressed through the site plan approval process and a registered site plan agreement with the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Ashler.
So this application and the applicant is written, it's for a that will be located at 278. The applicant is a 16 dwelling unit separately conveyable. Each of the parcels will have their own rear yard and front yard, and then the and that is to allow separate application.
as well as the development proposal.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Ms. Ashler? Hearing none. I'll call the vote on that. You are. Okay. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. Consideration of correspondence. Fidel Zabian, BIA Treasurer, request to utilize reserves for Summer Street Fest 2022. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Talbot.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the Downtown Woodstock Business Improvement Area Board of Management request to amend its 2022 budget to allow expenditures of up to $50,000 for the 2022 Summer Street Fest event to be financed from the Reserve for Beautification and Marketing, and if required, the Reserve for Bad Debts.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Tay. Any discussion on that? Councillor Talbot?
As everyone is aware, there wasn't going to be a street fest, and was brought to our attention that the interest was definitely there to hold an event. So the board has been working very hard, some more so than others, members, to make this happen. And even though $50,000 sounds like a lot of money, when you start adding up what entertainment costs and what stages cost and a few other things, it's actually quite expensive. But everyone's working very hard to make it a good event. And our next council meeting in August will be it'll be starting the day afterwards. So it should be a great event. And Southgate Center is doing a very large car show on the Sunday. So another good event. So it should be a great weekend.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Thanks. I think a lot of people are looking forward to this. I'll call the vote on this. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. The next is Councillor Schattenberg has requested the following correspondence be added to the agenda. Hastings County resolution for the province to implement an Amber Alert program for persons with special needs or circumstances. Councillor Schattenberg.
The Woodstock City Council support the Hastings County resolution requesting the province of Ontario to develop and implement a community warning program similar to the Amber Alert for those persons of special needs or circumstances who leave the caregivers or locations and potentially put themselves at risk. And further, that this resolution be circulated to Hastings County, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, and the Honorable Ernie Hardeman, Oxford MPP.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Petter. Is there any discussion? Councillor Schattenberg.
I just wanted to add a couple of stats. The autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, 1 in 66 children, but when it comes to boys, it's 1 in 42 for males. So that's an astounding number. Of course, it's going to be a variant from one person to the next as to the degree. But the Public Health Agency of Canada, I think, has done a lot of work sort of in studying the autism spectrum disorder. But I think something similar to the Amber Alert is something that's very important, as opposed to what the Amber Alert system is all based on.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Yes, I think this is very important for these people, children or anyone with autism. So I think this is really important. So I'll call the vote on this. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. There's no staff presentations, no mayor's report, councilors' reports, and department reports. Administrative services. the statement of revenue and expenditure and statement of capital expenditures for the period ending June the 30th, 2022. Could I have a motion on that, please? Counselor Tay,
Make a motion to receive as information.
thank you. Could I have a seconder, please? Counselor Patter. Thank you. Any questions on that? Comments? Counselor Schadenberg?
I guess I have a couple of questions, but neither all would be for Mrs. Campbell. One would be for Brian Connors from our Parks and Recreation Department, based on subsidies that were applied for to help with the summer wages. And there's some certainly very good news to report in this area when you look at the numbers.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, yes, we were quite successful in obtaining quite a few grants for summer students, which has helped out our budget lines quite significantly, which again goes to offset some of the other charges that we weren't anticipating, like fuel and hydro. So.
I think I got the numbers right from the expenditure list. That the budget was 10,000 in one area for parks as student wages, and the actual became 50,000 that was granted. And for camps, the budget was for 5,000, and the actual came in at 14,900. So there's certainly people at your department that are doing a great job securing these grants. Your opportunity to name drop, Mr. Connors.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, thank you. This was Emma Vondervoort, who is our grants as well as the manager of Cowan Sportsplex.
Counselor Schadenberg?
I guess my next question from the chair is directed through to our engineering department and Mr. DeHaan. One of the lines that was interesting in the budget was the fact that the city of Woodstock was going to spend money on putting streetlights in areas that currently do not have streetlights whatsoever. And the process continues on that as far as putting out requests for proposals, does it not?
Your worship, through the councillor, yeah, that is correct. There are a number of odd areas throughout the city that don't yet have streetlights, so we have a multi-year program in place to put streetlights up there. This year, the intent is to put streetlights up at Woodall Way, Griffin Way, and Finkel between Juliana and Athlone.
That any other comments? or
No, that's it.
questions?
The budget
Okay.
line for that, by the way, is 130,000. So people might think with the look at the full the listing of the budget, so wonder where that money is going to be spent. That's the idea, is where that money is going to be spent.
Okay, it's great. Just checking out all those accounts. So any other discussion on? I'll call a vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed. The next one is engineering encroachment agreement 377 to 379 Main Street. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Talbot,
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approves the encroachment at 377 and 379 Main Street and authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the encroachment agreement.
thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Tay? Any comments, questions? Councillor Talbot?
Thank you. I was just going to say, I drive by this property all the time, and as soon as I saw that, I go, well, that makes a lot of sense. And they've been working on it steady, and I noticed that everything was kind of stalled. And I thought, gee, I wonder why that is. And then I get the report, and I find out that they needed the agreement. But it's really going to make a difference on that. It's right where Butler, where you stop at Butler. So I'm glad that we're able to help them out, and they can continue on because they've done a nice job.
Yes, and that it's cleaned that property up, and yes, I agree that they're doing a great job there. So any other comments? Thank you. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. The next one is the public art policy. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Schadenberg?
The Woodstock City Council approved the amendments to Council Policy CS 013, the public art policy.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Tay? I see that Miss Reed is in the audience. Would you like to come forward, Miss Reed?
very much, Acting Mayor Lauder. So we're just about to actually award our first formal public art commission. When I developed this policy in 2017, unfortunately, I've only been painting a few crosswalks, and so I'm finally delighted that some permanent art will be placed in the city of Woodstock at the newly renamed Florence Carlisle Park. I had the policy reviewed by the city's insurance brokers, and they requested this additional language be put into place. So that's what's been added to the policy. And after this is approved, that I will be able to move forward with the formal commission of the Bruce Flowers public sculpture.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or any questions? Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mary Reed. I guess the one thing that I thought was interesting as far as the policy goes is that the included in it was the sort of inclusion of the discussion with the accessibility committee. And I mentioned that because I'm sitting on the accessibility committee for the city of Woodstock, to have them included as far as one group or one advisory group that would be somebody that have the specific say on the final look or the final feeling of the tone of the structures.
Yes, so you may not be aware of this, to the councilor's question through to our mayor, is that your chair of the accessibility committee is actually so there's a little bit of pillow talk that goes on, and we thought that perhaps this would be a good idea to include them in this process. So I'm really glad that he brought that to my attention and formalizes the process and makes it that much more transparent.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion here? Okay, thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That passed unanimously. The next is the Economic Development Community Improvement Plan Agreement for 19 Riddell and 427, 429 Dundas Street. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Accioni?
Yes, moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council approved the Community Improvement Plan application for properties located at 19 Riddell Street and 427 to 429 Dundas Street, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the necessary agreements, and that the approved funds be taken from the downtown reserve for these projects.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Schadenberg? Is there any questions or discussions on this? Councillor Talbot?
Not a question, just a comment. This is the old Hudson building, and the aluminum siding has all been removed off of the building, and you drive by it, and you can see what the old facade, actually it was two different facades because it was two separate buildings, what it looks like. So I'm very anxious in anticipation of what's going to be done going forward. So I think it's a wonderful improvement to get that aluminum off and to see the building as it was, and then to go forward and kind of in line with what's on the street there. So it's very good to see all these buildings being redone.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, and the same idea. I just wanted to comment that 19 Riddell Street, since I went to WCI 30-something years ago, but 19 Riddell Street is the former law office of Roman Waleniuk. And if you take an old building like that, which is essentially probably an old Victorian home, and you want to do things like modify front porches or wraparound porches and stuff, it really is nice to be able to do it to what it should look like, as opposed to what you could make it like by today's standards. So to be able to restore it and make it look like an old home is a very nice idea.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Mr. Magyar, would you like to make a comment on this?
I guess if you're asking, I'll make a comment. I think what, in terms of the CIP program in general, I think what we're starting to see now is what we've expected all along. It's taken a long time to get here, but we're starting to see more and more people take us up on these opportunities. And of course, we're happy to invest, provided they invest. The one thing that flies under the radar, I think a fair amount on these CIP applications, is if you look at the two applications before, you're actually getting 13 residential units downtown. So it's the adage that the more people you get downtown, the more it will help the existing businesses and that sort of thing. And quite often we see the facades and we see those sorts of things, but the residential side is, again, it's 6 or 7 maybe on its own is not a big deal, but I'd actually have to have Brad tally up the number, but I bet you there's in excess of 100 that we've funded for new residential units in our downtown core.
Thank you. That's really important to get more residential downtown. So are there any questions that anyone has for Mr. Magyar? Not? I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The next property, or the one is proposed sale of 625 Parkinson Road. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Patter?
I move that Woodstock City Council declares 625 Parkinson Road as surplus and direct staff to offer the property for sale by tender.
Seconder, Councillor Tate. Any questions on that? Councillor Patter?
Just a quick comment. That's a gorgeous piece of property. For anybody that's looking for it, it's going to have green space in the backyard, and it should be very popular when it goes up for sale.
Mr. Magyar, would you like to give an idea where this is for the public?
I guess most people probably see it from the Parkinson side of the street, but this is actually a lot that will front onto Bernadette Street. And so there's been a fair amount of work that's gone into getting to this point in terms of the environmental assessment and the record of site conditions. So I agree with Councillor Patter that when it does hit the market, I suspect there'll be a lot of interest in the property.
Yes. Any other discussion? I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed. The next is approval to enter into a shared service agreement with the Downtown Woodstock BIA. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Talbot?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council direct staff to draft a shared services agreement that includes the traditional responsibilities of the BIA general manager and the mayor, and the clerk be authorized to sign the agreement.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Tate? Any discussion on that? Councillor Talbot?
We've been working on this agreement or this idea for a few months now, knowing, or when we found out that we were going to be having our BIA manager retire. And we're very excited about the opportunity of what this is for the BIA, and to have a relationship or a partnership actually with the city. We're thinking that it's going to be a very positive 2-year project, which we hope will continue on, but it's basically a pilot, but it's being done in a few other areas and has been very successful. And what it does is it just allows us more opportunity to access the services of the city. And we have a lot of expertise here, and that will go a long ways in helping. And I think that the membership in the BIA area will be very pleased with the positive outcome that this partnership is going to have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. The next is proposed extension in timing to build commitment for Armor Pro Audio Visual Inc. Could I have a motion on that? Councillor Schadenberg?
That Woodstock City Council authorized the mayor and clerk to sign an amending agreement with Armor Pro Audio Visual as described in the report.
Through to the question, this is a small business we've been working with for quite some time, and particularly in this case, COVID, because the nature of their business has had quite an impact on them. So things seem to be getting back in order for them. They've also picked up some additional business. So they've been very good in terms of communicating their plans all along. As noted in the report, we quite often provide a fair amount of leniency, provided there is some activity going forward on the actual property. So in this case, Mr. Hammond's been dealing with them. They've indicated that they're okay with this recommendation and they're moving forward on their plans. They actually spent a fair amount of money grading and prepping the property very early on, and then of course COVID hit. So I think it's strained them a little bit, but now they're back in a situation where they're going to proceed with building the building. So that's why we're recommending the extension.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this? I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. The next is the proposed extension to building commitment for Execulink Telecom. Councillor Kate,
The Woodstock City Council authorized the mayor and the clerk to sign and amend an agreement of purchase and sale with Execulink based on the extensions outlined in the report.
thank you. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Patter. That's similar to the other one. And any discussion on this? Thank you. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The clerk's council committee changes. Could I have the motion on this? On the council committee changes? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see the remark.
The Woodstock City Council approved the recommended changes to the following committees: Fire Service Advisory Committee, Property Standards Committee, and further the necessary bylaws be prepared.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Petter. Any discussion on this? Did we want to hear from the fire chief regarding the advisory committee?
Your worship, thank you. Through to the report that was filed in conjunction with the clerk's report, if there are specific questions with related to what we've presented, I'm happy to answer anything that's
Councillor Accioni.
Thank you. Through the chair to, I suppose, the chief, as a member of that committee of the Fire Service Advisory Committee, I will admit that it didn't serve its purpose as meant to be. I was in the first committee that started up originally. I was part of those discussions of the ideas behind, and I certainly feel for what you must have gone through, or even being torn about coming forward with this idea. I feel there's a need for it. I will be voting against this motion just for that reason. I do see a purpose being there. It's hard to be when you're not legislated, of course, like the police board, and I would certainly go forward with a lot of different recommendations for any committees moving forward. But just want to say thank you. I know that's kind of in a tough position, but as far as the 8 years I've been on it, you've been fantastic, always giving any information needed by any committee members. I just wish maybe we would have taken a little more proactive, been more involved in events and certain things to, as per the original goal of it. So I guess I never really saw that because I've got a seat and I see everything else going on, but a lot of the members certainly felt that they weren't as involved as they'd like to be. So for what it's worth, thank you.
Councillor Accioni, thank you.
Is there any other discussion on either of the items in this motion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, from the chair, maybe through to our city clerk. Is there something in the municipal act that sort of says how often any kind of an advisory committee must meet in a certain year, whether it's property standards or even something like the Recreation Advisory Committee or other groups that they simply must meet whatever number of times?
Acting Mayor Lauder, through to Councillor Schadenberg's question. Can't quite see around my screen, but with respect to advisory committees, no, there's not in that particular case. That's driven by our municipal code bylaws, which states how often those particular committees need to meet. Committee of Adjustment, for example, would be different. There's some stipulations under the Planning Act, but with respect to the advisory committees we're talking about today, that's driven by the council approved bylaws.
Any other discussion on this? I'm going to call the vote. Thank you. I'm going to call the vote on this. All in favor of this motion? Those opposed? Thank you. That's in favor. gone through. So it's 3-2 or 4-2, I should say. The next one is the Chief Administrative Officer. It's 381, 385 Dundas Street, former Capitol Theatre, Ontario Superior Court Legal Proceedings, HOC, Phonics, A&A Environmental, County of Oxford, City of Woodstock. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Petter, and a second, the motion, please.
I move that Woodstock City Council approve the settlement agreement outlined in the report and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign all the necessary documentation. And further, that the estimated city cost of $40,000 be financed from the Hydro Reserve.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Tate? Any discussion first? Councillor Petter?
Just want to, through the mayor, just turn the floor over to David and see if he can explain this. It's very complicated and we've been listening to it for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Madam Chair, through to Councillor Petter and members of council, the motion recommendation before council is to accept the settlement agreement. The sequence of events that brings us this afternoon to this recommendation is very long. I'll try and abbreviate it. It begins with the Capitol Theatre, the Dundas Street Capitol Theatre, experiencing a roof collapse, rendering the building structurally unsafe, resulting in concerns for further collapse of the building into the sidewalk, into the alley, into the adjacent buildings. The property owner did not hold property insurance for it and was financially unable to remedy the unsafe condition. The orders the municipality put on the property to remedy it were therefore not complied with, which put the onus on the municipality to make it safe. And in this case, making it safe meant demolishing it. Now, it was a former movie theater. Before that, it was a vaudevillian theater. Very old, filled with asbestos, very expensive to demolish. The city completed that work and pursued a tax sale to recover our costs, and it failed. Failed because the minimum price was just too high, and that was our cost to demolish the property. City Council then gave direction to staff to put the property up for sale under a request for proposal process, which we did, and we received proposals, made recommendations to sell to the highest price bidder, proposing the best development proposal that we received. And that was HOC Holdings. So agreements were signed that required certain performance under that sale. So the new owner assumed title and had 2 years to complete the development of a new building on that property. But problems ensued. Council gave 2 extensions to those time limits, neither of which were adhered to. In late 2020, the owner presented to City Council requesting a 3rd extension and essentially removing all of our performance requirements that we had to protect the municipality's interest. Council provided the owner with a 2-week grace period to show good faith in cleaning up the property, which had been left in a very unsightly condition for years. The property owner took no action on that, came to the next council meeting with a piece of correspondence that withdrew the request for the extension. Council at that meeting then gave direction to staff to recover title ownership for breach of contract, failure to adhere to those performance requirements. So we began that work to recover title. The owner had a change of heart and decided he was going to try everything he could to maintain ownership. And so frustrated any attempt that we made in trying to recover ownership of the property, which led us to having to file a statement of claim with the courts. In the meantime, there were liens placed against the property for professional services that had been rendered to the owner, for which payment was not made. further complicating the situation. The statement of claim that was filed included the owner, the County of Oxford, who had an interest in the property because they were funding an affordable housing project on the site, as well as the company that held the lien on the property. We've been in litigation now for well over a year. The owner of the property has now passed through 3 separate legal representatives, and he's working on his 4th. All trial dates that have been scheduled have been deferred for failure to complete the discovery process, as well as changes in his legal representation. So we come to this juncture now with the reality that any court date now is going to be 2023. And this property has been sitting there in a very unkept state for many years. And it's just simply unacceptable. So with this proposed settlement, the County of Oxford has stepped forward to fund the lion's share of the settlement agreement, whereby the city will assign its rights to repurchase the property to the County of Oxford. The County of Oxford will take title to this property as well as to a partially demolished property immediately adjacent to it, so that they can continue their original plan to develop affordable housing. And so the effect of this settlement offer will put that into effect. And if council approves that this afternoon, title could change hands as early as Monday, as long as things don't change again between now and then. And effective Monday, the county could be in possession of this and finally, we could have a responsible party to clean up that property.
Thank you. And, Councillor Petter?
Through Madam Chair to Mr. Curry, thank you for that Coles Notes version. And I really want to speak to the public here. The odd time, about once a week, somebody says, look at that awful thing where the theater used to be, and why doesn't the city do something? And my God, we've got to do something. Now you know, if you've listened to the Coles Notes version, like that, how complicated this is. We owned it, we didn't own it, the county owned it, we owned it, somebody else owned it, they didn't want to do anything with it, they didn't want to fix it up. It just isn't as simple as the city going in and cleaning up what we don't own. So I just kind of wanted the public to understand that. I see it so much on Facebook, and it drives me crazy because you can't explain to people exactly what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? No, we can't. No. Yes, it'll be so good to get that cleaned up, because I think every one of us have dealt with the public questioning why we aren't doing something there, and we can't do that. And so I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That is certainly unanimous. The next, we don't have anything from Human Resources or the Fire Services, Public Works, the sign technician funding shortfall, and skilled labor to Midnight's funding shortfall. Could I have a motion on that? Councillor Tate?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the conversion of 2 skilled labor staff positions to 1 sign technician and 1 skilled labor to Midnight's.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Schadenberg? Is there any questions or discussion on that resolution? Hearing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The next one is from Special Committee and Advisory Task Force Reports, 130 Finkel Street Heritage Designation. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Accioni?
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council refused the request to repeal the municipal bylaw designating property located at 130 Finkel Street, Woodstock, under the Ontario Heritage Act. And further, that the property owner be advised that an application under Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act for alteration or removal of portions of the property's heritage attributes is required for consideration prior to undertaking any alteration or removal.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Talbot? Ms. Houston, would you like to come forward for any discussion on that? If there's questions? Does anyone have any questions through to Ms. Houston on this property? Councillor Patel?
Through Madam Chair, I would just like somebody to explain to me the motion. Refuse the request to repeal the bylaw. I just want to know what I'm voting on. If somebody could explain it.
This has had a long story, and basically what we have come with is we had the county, one of the counties, about what is some of their options under the Heritage Act. So that there's many things. You can straight up repeal a designation, but you can also have something called a heritage permit. And it's part of the Heritage Act, actually saying that if there is a portion of a heritage property, that there are aspects that you can keep. So with a heritage permit, it can say how do you basically remove or alter part of the structure. And so in this case, because of the condition that it's in, we're talking about above grade, below grade. We've also had really good discussions with the property. So they were actually a part of this. So they are aware of how we're going. So they are aware we are keeping the designation because that gives the council the ability to say, no, you just don't go in and get to raise everything. We're wanting to keep the actual foundation of the building and how we move forward with that. If we remove the designation, we do not, as a council, have the ability to ask them to do that. This is a very significant property. That's why we're.
Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, from the chair through to Karen. I guess the next question would be is if you take the structure that's there now and factor in several things, the size of the lot, the number of trees that are on the lot, its proximity to the railway tracks, which didn't even arrive until 35 years after the house was even built, that's becomes a factor because the railway is going to tell you about their easement or their right of way, how much width that they've got. And you factor in this old foundation that's still there. The developer still feels, again, you can't speak for the developer, I understand that. The developer still feels there's potential to build something on this property even with the designation still being on it.
So your worship, due to various questions I heard there. So first off, with the actual demolition, that is part of the heritage permit, is talking about getting into the site. There is still a clean way out, so getting equipment in, that kind of thing. Now, as to the actual foundation itself, it's quite a bit smaller than the house that you see above ground, quite a bit smaller. And so, yes, because of that, the developer is still.
Is there any other questions? Councillor Petter?
Through Madam Chair, I'm still confused like I always am. What are we trying to save, for lack of a better term? What is the city's input on this that we want to save something that I'm not sure anybody can see? There's no access to it back there. They may be at some time, but to me, pictures in the museum would be fine. I have no problem getting rid of the designation in order to let this builder do what he wants back there. I'm not sure what we're gaining. What are we trying to keep?
So, you're working through the question. Basically, the idea is that it's multiple things. So first off, being the first recognized property and the family being there for 165 years, what we're gaining is a couple. One, with the actual foundation being there, they're also, a part of the heritage limit is about commemoration. So they're also willing to talk about having some sort of way. So that is, and at this point, this is what we're talking about.
Okay, are there any other questions? Would you like Mr. Creary also to speak to this?
Madam Chair, through to Councilor Petter, Karen and I have had quite a few discussions about this, and my understanding is the current the application before the council is a Section 34 Heritage Act, just a simple remove or erase the designation that allows the complete removal. And what the committee is recommending to council is that they refuse that and instead encourage the owner to file a Section 33, which is a separate application under the Heritage Act to remove elements of a heritage designation. So the elements that we would be talking about here this afternoon is anything above ground. So what's left of the walls and the roof structure. So it's just going to leave the perimeter foundation. Now, my recollection, that perimeter foundation is a mix of rubble. It's a mix of very primitive formed poured concrete. There's crawl spaces and partial basement, all of which would have to be backfilled, just to leave the ribbon of rubble or poured concrete exposed above ground to provide context for the heritage feature that was once there. So the application that the committee's recommending the owner to submit would be subject to a similar, it will have to come back to council for approval, is my understanding. It will have to come back to the committee for their recommendation and come back to the council for final approval to amend that heritage designation bylaw to remove the elements of it and keep elements of it, and to attach any conditions that council may wish to attach in terms of how they go about the work to preserve the potential architecture or the archaeological, not architectural, because we didn't have garbage collection back then, so they just dug holes. So there's going to be stuff around it, but it's turned into a forest. And so that adds its own complications to everything here. So there'll be drainage issues associated with this. There will be, foundations exposed to the elements like this. It's going to crumble, and to keep it from crumbling, you're going to have to essentially put new mortar to stitch it all together, but that'll all come as part of this new application.
Go ahead, Councilor Petter.
Just one more, Connie.
That's okay.
The reason I brought this up was when we first started to get into this, I went back there. I drove back there, barely got back out because it was no one had been back there and I don't know how long. It was awful, and I'm sure it's still awful, but I understand the heritage value that may be to it. I just want to make sure when we vote for this motion, we are voting so that the Heritage Committee and the owner will be coming back to us with whatever needs to be done. Okay, that's all I need. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions through to Ms. Houston or Mr. Creary? Thank you. Okay, I'll call the vote on this. All in favor of this motion? Thank you. It's unanimous. And now we're down to bylaws. Councillor Talbot, I think you have an amending bylaw.
Yeah, I have to
First,
amend
third
the
amendment.
amendment first for the one
Yes.
bylaw. I move to amend bylaw number 954022 to add the following section. That the following highways or portions of highways in addition to, or sorry, shall be temporarily closed, and this is in addition to the ones that are already listed in the bylaw, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, August 14th, 2022. Dundas Street from Vansittart Ave to Light, and Dundas Street from Wellington Street to Bay Street.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Accioni, do you want to discuss?
I just wanted, unfortunately, it was an oversight that we, when the bylaw was originally submitted. This is basically for the car show portion because there are so many cars involved in the Street Fest, and normally we would have all of the streets closed if we were planning this in less than 6 weeks. So our original for the VI for the Street Fest, we're only closing from Light Street to Wellington Street and trying to compress everything so that everything is full in the short period of time. But they need the extra space because I think there's over 300 cars coming for the car show. So we need all the room that we can get. So this will probably take it from Van Ave to Bay Street and probably still using the side streets as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions through to Councillor Talbot on this? Hearing none, I'll call the vote on that, on this amendment. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimous. Now we'll go ahead with the bylaws.
Just have a question to the clerk. Do I have to say for the first bylaw, do I have to go as amended? Okay, thank you. So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Tate that the filing bylaws be given a first and second reading. 954022, a bylaw to provide for temporary closing of certain streets for 2022 Street Fest as amended. 954122, a bylaw to amend the City of Woodstock Municipal Code Chapter 127, Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Officer. 954222, a bylaw to amend the City of Woodstock Municipal Code Chapter 643, Taxi Limousine. 954322, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 862610 as amended. And 954422, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 862611 as amended.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. Third reading, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Tate that the filing bylaws be now given a third and final reading, 954022 inclusive to 954422.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. And now we'll go ahead with questions and answers from members of council. I'll start at this side this time. With Councillor Tate.
I don't have anything really. Summer is here, vacation, so just everybody be safe while they're out there. And my niece and the little baby Theo are headed to the World Championships to cheer on Damien next week. So looking forward to that. And he has not won the gold there, so we are really hopeful that he wins next week. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg.
Nothing to report today, thanks.
Councillor Petter.
Just a minute. I'm ready to pass out. You have nothing to say at all. Well, I'm gonna ditto that. Everybody have a good summer and be safe.
Okay.
Wow.
Any other time they take all your.
That's unbelievable. I just want to remind everybody about Art in the Park on July the 16th from 2 to 9. Live entertainment, local artists, artisans, displays, food, drinks, and more. And it is summertime and holidays and lots going on. But with that, I want to wish our senior planner, Andrea Hackler, best of luck in her new adventure. We just found out today, if I had known that on Monday, our last planning meeting, I would have said something, but Andrea's been a tremendous source and planner for the city of Woodstock for how many years, Andrea? You've been here for quite a long time and you've done a wonderful job. And Andrea's kind of one of those people that even if we don't agree, we still move forward and carry on. So she's done her job very well. And she's moving on to Stratford in a lead role. And they're very lucky to be getting you. So thank you for all the years of service and especially for the city of Woodstock.
Councillor Accioni.
Yes, thank you. I was certainly gonna wish Ms. Hatchler success going forward. So it's been nice to sit by you and have you right beside me for any questions. So I appreciate that. And of course, Art in the Park is this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town again. I'm going to miss another city event. I can't believe it, but it is the Honda Indy, so I'm going to be in Toronto working the pits again for the races. So I'm excited for that. Unfortunate for timing. But have a great weekend. Again, 2 to 9. There's going to be lots of live entertainment, artisans, displays, food, drink, everything. So bring a lawn chair, everybody. It should be a great time. Again, my apologies in advance for missing it. I want to say congratulations again to Prancy, Curtis, and Justin. Reading their resumes was just phenomenal. So there's 3 young people, and I knew Curtis when he was a fair bit younger, and just to see the young people they've all grown into is just absolutely incredible. And I certainly wish them success and hope they come back when they are done their schooling and come back to the city of Woodstock. And again, congratulations to Southgate Center on reaching $1 million. I mean, that's incredible already. So hopefully they can keep it going, and just goes to show you how lucky we are in this community. We have very, very generous people, and thank them. And please keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea, do you want to say anything? No? I didn't want to put you on the spot, but you.
Thank you. So I think actually I want to say I've been at the city for working with the city for 8 years. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed working with council. I mean, some of the faces have been throughout the entire time, and everyone has been so kind to me. And I want to believe that I've grown a lot in this role, and I appreciate all the support that I've received. I've also really enjoyed working with city staff. They're an incredible group, and again, very patient, have taught me tons. And yes, I'm only moving on because it's in my career, but definitely would be happy to come back here. Hope Stratford's not listening. If the opportunity arose, I definitely would, and I would encourage anybody else to come and work for the city. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Andrea, and you will be missed. It's our loss and Stratford's gain. So I wish you well, and maybe one day you will be back. Thank you. From the Woodstock Art Gallery is offering free studio drop-ins on July the 26th and August the 9th from 11 to 3. It is free self-guided interactive art experience for all ages where you can create and keep your own artwork. So check that out, and it is free. So there's not a lot of things that's free anymore. So this is one of them. So go and enjoy. And I will see you at Art in the Park. So with that, I'll call for an adjournment. Councillor Petter, second by Councillor Schadenberg, all in favor. Thank you. We're adjourned.